Up+Adam.
Tractor systems are offline.
We are Beyond FM.
Beyond FM.
The future of broadcasting is here.
Up+Adam with Adam Montiel. It's community content from Concentrate. It's Up+Adam with Adam Montiel.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Yes, some say life is just where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Tuesday. How goes it? Thank you so much for being Up+Adam. My name is Adam Montiel. Hope your week is going great. Paso Wine Fest, your last chance to win tickets to this Saturday's grand tasting. AdamMontiel.com, check it out. Tomorrow I'll be talking to Chef Rachel Ponce. She'll be on the show with her husband, Eric Ponce of Cellar Fermentations. Now, one cool thing about Rachel, I'm going to be connecting with her on Friday. We're going to be hooking up for the Paired Paso and Michelle Barrera from Enjoy Slow. All three of us, we're going to be judges as 9 wineries pair with 9 chefs for your vote. They got a People's Choice vote, got a couple judges there. The three of us are going to be doing our thing. I can't wait. It is all part of Paso Wine Fest weekend. Again, speaking of Paso Wine Fest, big grand tasting Saturday. Don't miss it. You can use the promo code Adam, save $20 on your tickets. PasoWine.com. And again, reminder, last chance to get in to win your way into the Saturday grand tasting, PasoWine.com. All right. What happens? It is True Crime Tuesday. Yes, of course. Not going to forget that. What happens when a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist gets pulled so deep into a story, it stops being about the reporting and really starts being about redemption? Gilbert King spent years unraveling the case of Leo Schofield, a man convicted of murdering his wife, but after another man confessed and detailed his crimes with chilling accuracy, Leo is still behind bars. Well, in season 2 of the gripping true crime show Bone Valley, Gilbert turns the mic on the man who confessed, a guy named Jeremy Scott, and the story only gets darker from there. Coming up, we're going to go deep with Gilbert King, the author, journalist, the man behind some of the most powerful storytelling in criminal justice today. What toll does it take to hold the truth when the system refuses to? I mean, this guy has literally written books that have exonerated like 4 men. And how do you sit across from a killer and get him to talk? What would justice actually look like for Leo, for the victim, Michelle, for all of us? That conversation coming up. It's one of the more raw and real that we've had on a True Crime Tuesday, so can't wait to chat with him later in the show. Before that, I have a couple little nuggets. One, it's a food segment. What the food? I'll do that one first. The next one is about wedding season. Crazy, though. All right, WTF, what the food? Have you ever wondered why brunch tastes so much better than a normal meal, or maybe why that late night slice or a greasy burger hits differently after a few drinks? Well, it's not just your imagination. There is science behind it. Alcohol makes your food taste better. Alcohol can alter our taste perception by affecting the brain's neurotransmitters, making us more sensitive to certain flavors. And this heightened sensitivity can make food taste more flavorful and very much more satisfying. See, drinking alcohol stimulates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, which enhances pleasure, as we know. This means that eating while intoxicated can feel more rewarding, which makes that food seem tastier. Alcohol can lower inhibitions and increase cravings for high-fat, high-salt foods. That's why those foods taste so good at those times. These foods, they can counteract alcohol's effects and provide quick energy, making them particularly appealing when we've had anything to drink. Late night eating often accompanies drinking sessions because the combo of altered taste perception, increased cravings, and the social aspect of eating in and of itself can make the food consumed while having some drinks seem way more enjoyable. Due to a combo of altered state perception, stimulated reward systems, increased cravings, social factors. Talk about a perfect pairing. And so the next time you are indulging and you're feeling, God, this food tastes so good, now you kind of know why. All right, finally, one for wedding season, which is kicking off, right? You start with a couple bridesmaids, maybe 3, then it's 4, then your cousin, then your best friend from summer camp. Before you know it, you got a small militia in matching dresses. And that's basically what happened to Catherine Stewart. She got married, beautiful day, happy couple, but the guest list, yeah, I'd say it got personal. Catherine ended up with 95 bridesmaids. That is not a typo or misinfo. 95. She started with a modest 7 or 8, but she runs a dance studio. So she said, oh, screw it. All my dancers are walking. And her husband, Jack, he held the line at 8 groomsmen, which still sounds like a lot. Probably for balance and sanity. 95. Out of 250 total guests to their wedding, 103 were in the wedding party. That's over 40% of the crowd. And yeah, they all walked the aisle. The bride said it moved quicker than you would have thought. And photos, no big deal. They're dancers. Formation is kind of their thing. And if you're wondering whether 95 sets the record, can you believe that? We got a woman in Tampa who set the record back in 2015. Her name is Tina Ackles. She had, you ready for this? 168 bridesmaids, which feels less like a wedding and more like a stadium proposal. 168. It's getting out of hand. I just texted Amanda Holder, who is just an events guru, has done a ton of weddings. She said she was working a wedding one time and the bride had 24 bridesmaids. Man. All right, going to get into our chat with our friend Gilbert King. It's going to be a good chat. Before, though, yesterday I told you about Oliver Widger. He is sailing with Phoenix. Right now, Oliver is deep in his solo voyage across the Pacific, going from Oregon to Hawaii in his sailboat. He's got a 40-foot sailboat. Secondhand, it's called Phoenix. It's just him, his cat, and the sea. Totally solo, this guy's doing it. And thanks to today's tech, he's got Starlink. We can follow him in real time. I've been putting links in the show notes. We broke down his story yesterday. Here's a little update on some of the more recent posts of his.
Yep, we are in the spice. It has been a spicy morning. And I've got to start, I do my rounds around the boat every day, so I have to do my rounds, but yep. We're back. We are back. Waves are getting big. I like sailing again, you know, being sailing again. So I like that. But I don't like the thought of things breaking. So we're in things breaking weather. So yeah, I got to do my rounds, make sure everything's good. You got it.
His awkward endings are pretty funny. And how he ends with that laugh sometimes. So good. Well, so it sounds like he's been kind of on calm seas the last couple days, and just taking a look at some of these videos, like it's the swells are big up there. It's like 6 to 8 foot, and he's going through it. And it's going to be like that. Might be for the rest of his journey, which looks to be like around 10, 11, 12 days. We'll see. So links in the show notes if you want to follow our boy Oliver and Phoenix. Sailing with Phoenix, you can check out the links in the show notes, including being able to track where he is this literal moment. First, I want to thank Dow Vineyards for being Up and Adam. You should check out their Taste of Luxury, tiny vials, big flavor. Get to sample their top tier wines. Things like Patrimony, Soul of a Lion, in these sleek 100 ml pours. DowVineyards.com. Check it out whether you're a member or whether you just want to get up to the mountain and taste the food, the people, the wines, of course. Serious luxury. Paso style. DowVineyards.com.
It's Up and Adam with Adam Montiel.
Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Gilbert King doesn't just cover true crime. He exposes the cracks in the American justice system where truth gets buried and lives are lost in the rubble. He is the author of the best-selling book Devil in the Grove, the acclaimed book that helped exonerate 4 innocent men. Also the host of the breakout show Bone Valley, now in its 2nd season. Gilbert's turning his lens to a confessed killer and the man who's still sitting in prison for the murder. I mean, this case is personal. It's rather painful, and it's far from over. Gilbert King, thank you so much for being Up and Adam.
Oh, thanks, Adam. Really appreciate this.
You know, Gilbert, when you look back at Leo Schofield's case, the missed clues, the ignored evidence, the new confession, at what point did it stop being just a story and start feeling like a mission?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think like just listening to Leo recount the desperation of his search for his wife, like in those early days, and we asked him to go there for us, and we want to just put a microphone in front of his face and tell that story. I don't know how many times he's had to tell that story in prison. I got the sense that these are things he kept to himself. And so after 30 years, he's recounting this, everything he remembers. And just if you think about that, think about like the worst moment of your life where the woman you marry, you've only been married to her for 6 months, she disappears. What would you have done? And so it was really easy to put ourselves in that place and listen to him like, well, after 15 minutes, I said, she should have been here by now. You start calling the friends. You start calling the sheriff's office, see if maybe there's been a car accident, like all these things he's doing. And just over those 3 days when he just starts recounting this desperation and then, 2 days later, finding her car and her not being there. Where is she? And then on day 3, the body's found. And, just listening to tell this story, like he shows up, there's like police all around. They're saying, don't go back there. You can't go back there. We can't show you the crime scene. Stay here. And his instinct is like, what if she's still alive? What if she's in that water? She could, like, he's like a young man. He's having these thoughts, like maybe she can still be saved. Get her out. When he's telling us those stories, it just felt so real to us. And just then also like not even having the chance to mourn your wife because now they're accusing you of doing this and you're on the defense. You never really had a chance to grieve your dead wife. You're like trying to prove to people, I didn't do this. I've been with people all night. I think that's when I started listening to this and there's no way this guy's faking this. He's talking about some real moments in his life. This is a man in his 50s and he's crying in front of us. He'd have to be a sociopath or the greatest actor in the world to keep this up over, 9, 10 interviews for hours on end.
Right.
That's when it became like, this guy did not do this. And then you meet the guy who did, and he's just as convincing too. So it's like,
gosh, now you spent years chronicling the failings of our justice system, but when you first sit down with Jeremy Scott, what did your gut say?
It was very obvious. Like I've been in situations like this before. I've met people who have been wrongfully convicted. I've met people who have done the things they're accused of doing. It's interesting because, Leo Schofield has always maintained his innocence and he's been like a model inmate in prison. And so when he comes up for parole, he's got no like disciplinary record. He's like got multiple college degrees. He's a model inmate. But the state just says you can't let him out because he's never apologized for what he's done. He's never said he's sorry. He's never taken accountability. And that was being used against him because he didn't show remorse for a crime that he says I can't show remorse for because I didn't do it. Then you meet Jeremy Scott, the person who did, and he's got all the remorse. He's saying, it gets worse. I've been in prison. I go to bed at night. I see the faces of the people I killed. It weighs on you. And, he says, this is my punishment. This is how I'm being tortured by my past. And so, like, it was pretty obvious that these two guys had very different views. One of them obviously was innocent, and the other one was trying to take accountability for this and could cite details about that evening when he killed Michelle. It was very obvious to us sitting there realizing these guys are both telling the truth about this. And then you look at the state and the investigation and like, they didn't want to know the truth. They wanted to maintain Leo's conviction. If they were really interested in the truth, they would investigate this a lot differently instead of just closing it up and saying, you can't believe either one of these guys. We're walking away from this.
Yeah. So from what weighs on him to what weighs on you, I'm curious, how do you tell a story where justice isn't just delayed, but denied again and again and again? What toll does that take on you to keep carrying these truths?
Well, I think one of the things that it makes it easier is that I feel like after, more than 6 years of investigating this, when you start learning more things about it, and it always comes back to Jeremy Scott and it doesn't come back to Leo. And when you see these things happen over and over again, you say, well, I can't believe the state really lied here. Look what they're saying in their appeal. The state is lying about this evidence. Like, if you have the truth on your side, you don't need to be lying about this stuff. And I kept finding these instances where the state was cheating and trying to make a case to win rather than get justice. And that became kind of infuriating to me because I feel like you're using the power of the state to keep an innocent man in prison. That to me felt like bullying in a lot of ways. And, granted, Leo had a terrible lawyer. His lawyer didn't do a good job. And that's it's not the prosecution's fault. He picked that lawyer. He paid that lawyer. But I think that we should have a system that sort of protects against that case. And that's not what happened. They just said, well, no, he's a very good lawyer. He made a few mistakes, but it's not enough to fix justice here. And I think that part of it became infuriating to me when you just see like so many ways the system failed and prevented the right man from going to prison and the wrong man from losing 36 years of his life to a crime that he didn't commit. It's infuriating, and it kind of motivates you.
Yeah, and it gets me thinking, like, is Jeremy, especially in season 2, is Jeremy a key or is he another Locke? I mean, season 2 turns its lens, of course, to Jeremy. He confessed to murder, but somehow he's not the one doing life. What does it say about guilt in America, and how do you interview a killer whose truth might be his best lie?
Yeah, it's interesting. I had the impression, because after I interviewed him a couple of years ago, I stayed in touch with him, and he would sometimes just call me because he had nobody else in his life. I mean, I was the only person he was talking to, and sometimes it'd just be casual conversations about how he's adapting to prison, and I would send him books, and he started reading, and he wanted to talk about the books, and I'm like, all right, I can do that for him. And then I said, you know what? There's some questions I have because I think you committed another murder that you never got caught on. And he was like, yep, I did that one too. I'll tell you exactly how I did. And he would write these long, like 6-page letters to me with all the details of the case and how he got away with it. And then he drew me a map one time that was unbelievable. It was more accurate than the police map. He was recognizing witnesses because he was from this town. And he said, oh, I didn't want him to get any closer to me because I just crashed the car and I didn't want him to see me. So I just said, get away, it's going to blow. And he sent them scattering. He said, that's because I didn't want them to recognize me because we grew up together. And he started giving me all these details. And I just realized, like, oh, this guy is actually just coming clean because he's tortured by his past. And, he said to me in the interview we did, he said, I go to bed and I see the faces of the people I killed. That's my punishment, and it's torture. And I think that it was really weighing on him after all these years that he, as he became an adult, he was taking accountability and remorse, and he had real remorse for the things that he'd done. And, I think it was like almost like looking at a condemned man who's about to be executed, and they ask him for his final words, and they basically just say, I apologize to the family of the victims, of the people I hurt. I just don't want to go on to my next life that way. I'm going to try to give you some closure. And that's where Jeremy is in his heart. I think he's just saying, like, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be alive, but I want to at least make sure that Leo's not in prison for a crime that he didn't commit. And also the other families, the people I killed, I want them to understand what happened, that it was me.
You're face to face with people who've been failed by life, by law, by fate. What was there a moment in Bone Valley where someone trusted you with a truth that they've never shared before?
It's a strange thing, and I don't really know how to describe it, but I was counting this the other day. I was thinking, like, I've had 4 people tell me that they've committed murders that they never got caught for. That's kind of a burden to carry sometimes. The one man that told me this once, I didn't realize he was on his deathbed. He was dying. He knew he was dying. And because I was interested and curious about the past, he started to talk to me about some killings that he'd done back in the Jim Crow era when he was not only a police officer, but he was also in the Klan. And he was describing some of the things he did. And I remember thinking, like, this is a strange thing to be telling me after all these years. And I remember I tried to follow up with him, and I couldn't. He didn't call me back, and I Googled him real quick, and I saw that he passed away. And his family told me, the reason he was talking to you is he was really trying to just, come clean about his past, and he was unburdening himself. And so it's a big responsibility for that, because I did check the files and I went through it, and like, he was telling me the truth. Like, he really did these things. And that happened to me a lot in Bone Valley, especially with Jeremy, who, I believe he's killed 4 people. He got away with 3 of them. And it wasn't until the last murder that he committed that he was arrested and put in prison the rest of his life. But, he started telling me about the other ones he got away with. And, I was generally really interested in that and wanted to explore that with him. And he was open to it.
You won the Pulitzer for Devil in the Grove. That book helped exonerate 4 men. With Bone Valley, if you could free just one more, Leo, what would that victory mean to you? Not so much as a journalist, but just as a man, as a human being.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell this. I say this all the time. Like, this stuff is much more important to me than any literary prize, because I'm in I'm in this. You know what I mean? Like I'm in Leo's life. I'm in Jeremy's life. I'm living this story, and it's become really important to me. And the most important thing is that you're not going to be able to give Leo back his wife, Michelle. She was taken 37 years ago. That's not going to be something that you can fix. And you can't give Leo back the 36 years he spent in prison. But the most important thing you can do is clear his name and exonerate him because he did not commit this murder that he was convicted and punished for. And so that is a really driving thing for me. It's not easy for me to move on to the next story and leave this hanging. I feel like that's part of the reason season 2 is out there, because the story was not done yet. And I feel it's really important to correct these injustices for the integrity of the American judicial system. I think people need to have confidence that their courts operate correctly, and that if there's a mistake, then somebody needs to be held responsible for that. And it needs to be a truth. It can't just be buried. And that's what's happened in this case.
You know, I've been in broadcasting for 25 years, and there's something deeply intimate about your style that I really admire. You don't just narrate, you walk alongside. You know, what do you think? Why do you think kind of people trust you so much with their pain?
You know, I think about this a lot, and I don't really have a great answer, but it's been something that I've just always been curious about, and I've liked to listen to people. And I've always been one of those people that's like, if you're hearing the most intimate moments of someone's life and it means something, you don't want to be staring at your phone, or you don't want to be distracted and thinking of the next question. A lot of times my conversations, there's no tape recording, you know, we're just talking. And I have the benefit of taking years to do these stories. I don't have a deadline of tomorrow. And so I don't have to get to the story quickly and then write it up. I have time to develop this trust. And I think that I just take advantage of that. And I want people to feel like I'm going to tell their story in the way that maybe they haven't even thought about, but they're part of. And it's a collaborative process. And I think just really just being empathic and non-judgmental when you're listening to people, like, it'd be very easy to listen to a Klansman talk about some of the racial killings he's done and just sit there and go, oh, this deeply offends me. We can't have this conversation anymore. You know, you have to listen to people. Your responsibility as a storyteller is to get their stories. And so it's tricky. You know, sometimes you're hearing things that are really pretty brutal and you don't want to take that lightly. But on the other hand, I think as a storyteller, you have a responsibility to hear everyone's story and to document them accurately and truthfully. And that's just kind of what I'm trying to do.
Let me go a layer deeper almost. When someone is telling you something, you're processing it, you're listening, you're going inside your head, damn, this is heavy, this is new, oh my God, I didn't know that. What are you cognitively thinking? Like, what is my reaction going to be? Like, keep calm? Or do you really just react normal, or do you go, okay? I mean, are there certain things that you are doing deliberately so you don't act shocked, you know, like you know what I mean? Like, well, what are some of those ways that you're reacting to some of these new things?
Well, it's funny because I don't feel like I ask a lot of questions in a lot of these situations. Sometimes I'm just saying statements and just saying, I don't believe this happened. Like, can you walk me down? I can't believe that happened. Yeah. And sometimes instead of just asking a question, which kind of people, like, they're used to it. Like if a policeman answers your question, you're going to be careful, right? You know, but sometimes just saying something like that, there's no way that happened. You can't convince me that's true. I'll say, it is true. Here's what happened. And sometimes just like having a conversation without a lot of questions, just a normal conversation. Like, I think sometimes producers listen to my tape and go, it's awful. You didn't even ask a single question. They're just having a conversation. Like, yeah, but listen to the conversation. It's all there, you know, right. Like and there's just ways of just sort of relating to people and just like getting people to forget the big microphone in their face. It just, people forget about that so quickly. You have no idea. And if it becomes a real conversation, I think that's been sort of the thing that, you know, I try to be in that moment with them. And sometimes there's a good follow-up question that I didn't get to because I was listening. But I can go back a couple of weeks later and maybe start it again. But I think just the momentum of a conversation and letting it unfold naturally, even if it doesn't like answer all the questions, there's a lot of power to that because it's real. And I feel like when people are talking to me, a lot of these kind of cases, they'll at least say, I had a real conversation with that guy. I don't know. I don't remember any questions that he asked me, but we really got into it. And I think it's true. You see it, you listen to it on the tape later and you're like, wow, I didn't believe I said all that, but there it is.
You've given voice to people that the system forgot or never fully saw as human. What's the most quietly heroic thing you've ever witnessed? Maybe something that wouldn't have made the headlines, but you will certainly never forget.
There's been so many of them with this story, but I'll just give you an idea of like going in and meeting Leo in the prison. And, we went in there like, I think 9 or 10 times. And we had several hours with him. So we've gone over this case so many times. And I said to him, I said, Leo, I don't know that anything I do or the story that I tell is going to affect your case. I don't know if it's going to make things better for you or worse. I don't know. But I do know that I've changed the narrative because I feel like the story I've investigated is no longer the official state story. Like, I feel like we've got the real story. We've got the truth here. And I don't know that it's going to help you. And I feel sorry for you if that's the case. But at least I can promise you we have changed the narrative. And he said to me, like, Gilbert, I feel like there's no way to thank you. I don't know. I can't give you anything. The only thing I can give you is this one thing. You're never going to have to worry about my truth coming back and biting you on the ass. It's never going to happen. I've given you everything, and you're never going to have to worry about learning something that says, aha, he was lying the whole time. You never have to worry about this. The only gift I can give you. And the way he said it to me, in like this sincere way, I feel like you'd have to be an absolute sociopath to say that to me, and for him to be lying. So I knew that he'd given me this truth, and that I don't think that was really in the podcast, but like that stuck with me. I really did believe that from him. And when I sat down with Jeremy, he didn't say it in so many words, but the same feeling was there. Like I could hear his voice cracking, I could see his eyes tearing up. I knew he was telling me the truth about the people he killed. Yeah. And so it was sort of a gift to be given those things to when somebody recounts the worst moments of their lives.
Wow. Man, when you're not chasing murder cases and writing Pulitzer-winning books, what is a quiet thing that brings you peace, Gilbert?
It's so stupid. It's embarrassing to talk about, but I really like the game of golf, and I just like going out by myself sometimes and just hitting balls or putting on headphones and walking a course by myself and just being lost. And I used to tell my wife about that, and I say, I'm writing in my head. I'm really writing. And she's like, you're playing golf. And then after a while, like you start winning some prizes and people are paying attention to your stories. And she's like, all right, just go out, do whatever works for you. But like, it's almost like if you're like washing a car, you're not just really washing the car, you're thinking about things and storytelling. And so it's like those kind of meditative moments of just being alone on a golf course or just hitting golf balls where I'm really thinking about my stories.
Well, Gilbert, I just can't thank you enough for the time to chat. Of course, we got all the links to season 2 of Bone Valley and the links to your books as well. I'd really be honored to chat with you again sometime. Thanks for being Up and Adam.
I appreciate it, Adam. I really enjoyed the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
Gilbert's good, not just at telling a story, but for carrying it. If you want to go deeper, check out Bone Valley, available wherever you get your podcasts. Season 2 streaming now. It is a must listen. And thanks, Gilbert, for being a part of True Crime Tuesday. All right, tomorrow on the show, Chef Rachel Ponce, brewer Eric Ponce. We're going to be talking about pink drink. We're going to be talking about the Staviary. What the hell is the Staviary? Well, you got to find out tomorrow. We're going to be breaking news. I'll tell you that much right now. Also, I'll be teaming up with Rachel on Friday. We're both going to be judges along with Michelle Barrera from Enjoy Slow at Paired Paso. It's part of Paso Wine Fest. It's on Friday. 9 restaurants are going to be paired with 9 wineries. And folks are going to be voting for who did the best pairing. So they got a few judges. They got a People's Choice Award. Would love to see you out there. Paso Event Center this Friday. Also, don't forget, last chance to get to adamontiel.com. Win your way in to Paso Wine Fest. That's the Saturday grand tasting, though. And if you are buying tickets and you know you're going to be going, you don't want to stake your chance at solely trying to win them, you can use the promo code ADAM when you're checking out of buying your Paso Wine Fest tickets at pasowine.com. Use the promo code ADAM, 80 a.m., and save $20 per ticket. Not bad. Thanks to Paso Wine. All right. Thanks to Moonshiner Collective for original music on the show called Start Again. They're available anywhere you stream your music as well. MoonshinerCollective.com. Thanks to you for rating, reviewing, subscribing. We'd love for you to do that. Love for you to share the show with a friend. Word of mouth. Text them wherever you're listening to it and share something with them. Means a lot. Mild temps today, a little wind. Things warming up a bit for tomorrow. Till then, I'm Adam Montiel. Thanks again so much for being Up and Adam.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again. Let's start again. We'll start again. Let's start again.